Hey guys, welcome to BP, the Bible Perspective. Most Americans are not racist. Is that true? And before I get into it, like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it in the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Asking a question like that or making a statement like that, most Americans are not racist. It's almost the same when you say, well, most cops are good. The question is, of course, can we adequately answer the question? Well, we can only go by fruit. For example, before we answer that question, or even can begin to consider to answer that question, we have to kind of go back and go, well, what context are you going to answer the question? This is what I mean. Look at the history. Our nation DNA is coded in there. This is what I mean figuratively. America was conditioned on racism. It had to be. The first slaves landed, the first slaves landed in 1619. Now, there's some who even dated earlier, but we'll stick with the 1619 official landing of the first slaves. Now, over the next 50-something years, from 1619 to 1776, you had generations upon generations of slaves then born on this land. The same as since whites or Europeans landed upon this land, there were generations upon generations during the same time, and even before, who were born on this land, making them, of course, at the time of 1776, natural citizens. Except they didn't naturalize black Americans. They said they were slaves. So the question becomes, how can a nation whose banner on the doorstep is freedom, in fact, not only freedom, remember they said that we believe that that all men are created equal by their Creator and endowed with inalienable rights by their Creator. Enslaved, right? In other words, you went against your Creator by enslaving the very people that you said were created equal. How does a nation do that? How does a nation override their most precious principle in which the entire Constitution is based upon? Remember, the Constitution is based upon freedom, but freedom as given, the rights given by the Creator, that all men are equal. So you have to look at that. They were conditioned, right? There were people who were living here. Now, for another 40, almost 50 years, the slave trade continued. But remember, there were slaves who were born here that should have been entitled to citizenship. Now, the 80 years, of course, it would take for this actual slavery to end, right? To end after a bloody war. Now, in 1865, when slavery ended, did the white people have a coming to Jesus moment? Did they say we were wrong by enslaving the people? Some 20 years later, they passed Jim Crow laws. Now think about that. The Jim Crow laws were segregated laws. In a sense, it was kind of worse. Let me give you an example. In the Bible, there was a story about one of David's sons. He was so in love with his sister, and it was such a burning lust, he had to have her. Well, he ended up raping her. Here is the thing now. This man who was so in love with his sister, in fact, one time his cousin even said to him, "Man, what's going on with you?" He said, "Man, I love my sister." In fact, the cousin even helped him devise a plan that he would be able to rape his own sister. Here is the interesting thing about that. When he raped his sister, he ended up hating her worse than the love. After he raped her, wouldn't even look at her, wouldn't talk with her, get out, go away. Here's my point. During slavery, the slave profited the master. And when they could no longer profit, they passed Jim Crow laws in a worse way, dismissing. We don't want you. Segregation. You're inferior. Here's my point to all this. You had to be conditioned for that. During the next nearly 100 years, you had terror beyond belief. Black people were conditioned, by the way, to fear the white man. You didn't look a white man in the eye. If you were walking down the sidewalk, you moved aside, even if it was muddy. Why? Because the consequences, there were thousands of lynchings. Here's the interesting thing, people. Doing some of these lynchings, this was like a family affair. You know how you go out on a family night to the movies, and afterwards on a nice summer night you have ice cream cone, right? You go to ice cream places, right? And or you stroll along the beach and stuff. Well, these lynchings of black men, oftentimes innocent black men, more cases innocent, where the whole town would come out, bring their children, their pictures. You can look, type up lynching, and you will see pictures, little kids, right, as a black man is lynched. In some cases, mutilated. Here's my point. What kind of condition? Think about that little kid that's sitting there witnessing that. That is today somebody's grandmama. That generation is grandma, nana, right? Grandma. That's what you have today. Now you want to say, now watch this. If you say to me, where did that mindset go? If you say America, right, most of America is not racist. Remember, America, most of them were complicit, guilty of, and stood by and did nothing. Where did that mindset go? In 1965, after a hard-fought battle to pass civil rights. By the way, in other words, people didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, this slavery thing was wrong. This racism thing is wrong. People fought hard. Look at the Little Rock, for example, the Central High School in Little Rock, where they had to send armed guards, a military, to escort black children. Little black girl, named Ruby, little black girl, had to be escorted in while white mob mothers, fathers, parents of high school kids were yelling threats, spitting. That was 1950s, the mid-1950s. When did that mindset go? Where did it change? You see, the idea here, people, and I could easily title this video, when did America stop being racist? In fact, I think I'm typing this, of course, I think I am going to title it that. You know, America is not as racist. When did they stop being racist? Okay? And that's my question. When did they stop being racist? If you say most of Americans are not, when? Now here's the good news. There are people who are changing. There's a lot of people, like Oprah said, and by the way, she got a lot of criticism for saying this. She said, you know what, there's a lot of people in that generation, they're just going to have to die out. I understood what she meant. A lot of people tried to, ooh, she said that. But it's simply true. And by the way, it's happening. By 2040, I believe it is, by 2040, America will no longer be a dominantly white society. That is frightening to a lot of white people. Here's the thing, though. Even now, though, we don't have to wait to 2040, but right now, there is even now people who have changed. I could tell you a lot of times there are people that I've known who have changed. But here's the other thing. There's a lot of people who haven't changed. They haven't changed their ways. That is sad that there are people who haven't changed. Most sad. But look, those of us who love God, love His Word, love the kingdom of God, hey, we should be that light to constantly not only point out the evils and the sins of racism, but you know what? We also should point the way of how we can be that example of what God intended for man and how man to get along. And let me answer the question then. Is America mostly not racist? Hard to tell. It all depends on the individual. One other thing, let me say this before I close. People would say, well, we elected a black president. Doesn't that make us not racist? Now, the people who say that, by the way, the white conservatives who say that, remember, you didn't vote for the black president, and your party withheld for the 8 years that he was in office, made sure that they could bring, they tried to bring every kind of stumbling block to him. And while he won an impressive victory in both terms, remember, nearly half the country didn't vote for him. And when people say that America is not mostly racist, I do believe that's true, but not for the ones who are saying it. I think Donald Trump mainly demonstrated there are a lot of people who just, didn't like that era and who would love to make America great again / white again. So to answer the question, is America, are most Americans not racist? That all depends on who is asking the question or making the statement. That's my perspective. And as always, like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. Till then, next time.